What is going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be ranking every single Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 launch map from the worst to the best. I'm only going to be talking about the standard 6v6 maps, so I'm not talking about the ground war or invasion maps because they're very hard to compare against the core 6v6 maps. I'm also only talking about the maps that are currently in the game at launch, so that does not include Museum, even though Museum we have gotten to play in the beta, but is not currently in the game, so we're not going to be including that. This is, of course, just my personal opinion. I know everyone's is going to be different, and that is perfectly okay. Feel free to share your own list in the comment section down below. In the last place, in the number 10 spot, I have Tarak. I believe that's how you pronounce it. A lot of these, it's kind of hard to pronounce them, to be completely honest, but this one is actually a remake of a Call of Duty 1 map, the original COD, which I didn't know because I didn't really play that game too much back when it was out. But that does not mean the map is good. Just because it's a remake does not mean it's good. It is actually pretty bad in my opinion. This map has absolutely zero flow to it. I would argue this is one of the worst maps in COD history. It's just this wide open field, it's like a desert, and it has a couple of broken down buildings all around it. It's just really poor because what most people do on this map is they'll kind of camp around the outskirts and just shoot anybody that tries to go into the center of the map. It's like a death trap to even try to get to the middle of this map. I just absolutely hate how it plays in pretty much every mode. I'm sure it's just fine in the non-respawn modes, but in respawn modes, it's terrible. It just does not flow at all. And like I said, because of this game with the time to kill being really fast, you are just really at a disadvantage for even trying to rush on this map. You are definitely better off just sitting in the back of the map in one of the buildings and just kind of sniping somebody from across the map, or just playing it really slowly around all the corners. But trying to run to like a building that's in the middle, it's just a death sentence. In number 9 spot, I have Embassy. Embassy is a map that I see a lot of people giving more praise for than I expected, and I think it's just because it's a smaller map and people tend to like smaller maps, and I agree, I love small maps, but it still needs to be good. It still needs to have a good layout to it. It can't just be small and it's automatically good. This map has probably one of my least favorite layouts I've seen in quite some time. It reminds me of like a Modern Warfare 2019 map. I think the biggest issue with a lot of those maps were all the doors and windows and flank routes and all these different ways of aiming at people. Like if you walk down like a road, there's pretty much like 100 different places someone can shoot you from. That was the biggest issue with those maps. Embassy does that exact same thing. There are so many windows and doors and pathways all around this map. It's basically a maze. And when you try to like walk across this map, especially in the middle area, there's like a million different windows people can shoot you from, and it just really makes for bad game flow. People tend to play kind of slow on this map because, again, it's just the best way to play the map, especially with the other mechanics in this game. This map could work in another Call of Duty maybe, but it does not work well in this game at all. I really don't have a good time ever playing on it. In number 8 spot, I have Santa Senya Border Crossing. So Border Crossing is one that I think most people probably would put in their last spot. And I liked it a little bit when I first played it, but then I started to play it again and again, and yeah, I started realizing this map's pretty bad. I mean, there's the obvious problem with the map. There's like so many vehicles everywhere that they just continuously explode, and you have situations where cars just keep exploding and keep killing you because people are just throwing grenades and shooting stuff, and it just ends up making cars explode nonstop, and it's not a good time, I gotta say. But I think the biggest issue with the map is the fact that it's basically just a one-lane map. There's like one lane and then this little side lane, and the side lanes are very, very small. So it just makes this really just inconsistent experience, and I just don't think it's a fun map to play. Like I said, with some of the other maps, I think this map could be decent if like the time to kill was a little bit slower, but I think it just ends up being this really slow-paced match where people are just kind of like slowly moving around the cars, ADSing around corners and stuff. It's not a good experience. And then, like I said, the other lanes, the really small lane, one of them is like this really long straight line that's just like, it's just, there's no cover. It's just this really long straight line. Like, how can that possibly work well for an arena shooter game? I just don't think it makes any sense. It's very clear to me that this map was not made for 6v6 because it is taken from one of the ground war maps, and I do believe they just kind of took a random location from the ground war map and said, yeah, that'll work for 6v6, and it really does not work. In number 7 spot is El Asilo. So this one is probably the last of the maps of the game that I don't enjoy. Basically, the bottom 4 in this list are maps I don't really enjoy, and then the top 6 are maps that I do enjoy. There's a pretty big gap between this map and the next map that we're going to talk about, but El Asilo I really don't enjoy that much either. It's got kind of the opposite problem of Tarak, where everything kind of just gets pushed into the middle of the map, but the problem is that the outskirts are still really useful. Like there's like this big hill around the outskirts, so whenever you're trying to go into the center of the map, you always have people around the outskirts that are just kind of waiting there to shoot you while you're trying to get to the middle. And of course, most of the action should be in the middle, but then you have those couple people just camping on the outskirts, and they have a sight line of pretty much the whole map. So I think it just doesn't play very well because of that. I do like when maps kind of center everything towards the middle. I think this map does that fairly well, which is why it's a little bit better than those other maps. But I still think it has that issue of some people still camping around the outskirts, and they're very much encouraged to do it, let's be real here. So that is definitely an issue. And just like we were talking about with Embassy, the middle of this map is just very, like, it's not a very good layout. Like, it doesn't have a very, you know, straightforward, predictable sort of a layout. It's very much all over the place, so really anyone's going to get the jump on you pretty easily. You just listen out for footsteps, because the footstep audio is still kind of loud, so it just turns into whoever can kind of listen to the other person's footsteps and then try to flank them. But like I said, it just ends up being a little bit random because of that. So I don't really enjoy this map, although I don't think it's terrible like the bottom three. In number 6 spot, we have Breenberg Hotel. So Hotel, I do enjoy quite a bit. I don't love it, so definitely it's not going to be crazy high, but I definitely enjoy this map to an extent. I think it's one of the better looking maps in the game. It has really, really nice color scheme to it. But I do think it's a little bit too big. Like, some of the outside areas could definitely be trimmed down a little bit, and some of the flow in the middle of the map can be a little bit wonky in some modes, but it really depends on the mode. I think Hardpoint on this map is fantastic, but then when you play like Team Deathmatch or Kill Confirmed, I think it's really not that great. So it really depends on what mode you play, but I do think, especially for Hardpoint and sometimes Domination, I do think this map can be a pretty good time. So I have a lot of fun with it. I don't really have much to say about it. It's not like a fantastic map or anything, but it's pretty good. In number 5 spot, I have Zerqua Hydroelectric. I don't know if I pronounced that first part right, but I'm just going to call it Hydroelectric. I really like this map. It's definitely one of the best looking maps in the game. The colors are incredible, and it's just got a pretty standard 3-laned layout to it. It's not the most linear lanes in the world. They're definitely not symmetric, but it still is 3-laned, and you have the little water system that kind of goes under the map. I think it's the only map with water, if I'm not mistaken. There might be another one that I'm not thinking of right now, but definitely one of the only maps that has a prominent usage of water, and I think it's good. I don't like the water mechanics too much in this game, but I at least like swimming every now and then. It's kind of fun to do, and like I said, it's a very competitive feeling map. I definitely do have a good time, especially on Domination and Hardpoint. Don't really think it's amazing or anything, like I said, same for Hotel, but it still is one of the best maps in the game, and I think the flow is definitely very competitive, so solid map. In the number 4 spot, I have Albargra Fortress. So Fortress is a map I was just in love with on launch day, because it was one of the maps that was coming up very frequently, and I was just having a fantastic time every time I played it. And it lowered a little bit in my ranking. At first, I was calling it the best map in the game, but I started realizing, yeah, there's some issues with it. Like, I do think it definitely could trim the outskirts just a tiny, tiny bit, not anything too crazy. But the layout reminds me a lot of like a Black Ops 1 map, and I think that's why I really enjoy it. It reminds me a lot of Hanoi from Black Ops 1 specifically. I really do think it has a similar layout and a similar feel, and it looks nice. It's definitely not an ugly map. It has a cool kind of theme to it, so I have a really good time on this map. I don't really think there's much else to say, just like the last two. There's really nothing that bad about it, and there's nothing that's that amazing about it. I just think it's a pretty good map that feels like a classic 3-lane, mostly 3-lane. It's not like perfectly 3-lane, but it definitely has that 3-lane feel. And I do feel like this was trying to cater to the players who do like those competitive feeling maps. So Fortress is a great, great map. In number 3 spot, I have Farm 18. Farm 18 definitely is this high because of how small it is, and it still retains a pretty decent layout. I don't love the middle section of this map. I talked about this in my beta ranking for these maps. Middle section can get a little bit too campy sometimes, people just kind of sitting in corners and stuff, but for the most part, this map plays pretty well. I really enjoy going around the outskirts and like kind of moving through the different buildings and like rushing different people around the outskirts, especially if it's playing Hardpoint and there's hardpoints on the outskirts. It's just a really good time. I really like how the action feels in pretty much every section of this map. I don't think there's a single area of the map that I despise, you know, having gunfights in, other than, like I said, the middle, where the middle can get a little bit annoying sometimes, but again, you can still kind of outgun them because there are a lot of different ways into that middle area. And I don't know, it's just a good map. I think it's definitely one of the best maps in the game. I don't have much else to say about it. In number 2 spot, I've got Mercado Las Almas. So this is, in my opinion, the best example of like a solid 3-lane competitive map in this game. It feels very, very good to play on. I really, really love how the lanes are utilized in this map. It reminds me of like a Black Ops 4 map more than anything, which I loved Black Ops 4's launch maps especially. So this map has that competitive feel, and the spawns can be a little wonky sometimes. They're wonky on all the maps pretty much, but that's the only issue I can really say about this map. I think it's solid. I think it's definitely one of the best. And in the number 1 spot, Crown Raceway. This map easily gets number 1 spot for a couple of reasons. First of all, it definitely has one of the best layouts. I think there's a little bit of a problem with the race car area, like with the garage doors, how you have to like crouch under there to get through. I think it's a little weird how that area plays on the map, but everything else is pretty much perfect. It definitely feels like a Black Ops 2 map in my opinion. It feels like Plaza more than anything. It definitely reminds me of that, and the colors, fantastic. The colors definitely put this map way above anything else as well because it just looks so awesome. It has really bright, vibrant colors, and I just absolutely love having stuff like that in Call of Duty. And like I said, the layout is solid. I don't really ever run into situations where I feel like I'm being outgunned because of bad map design. It does feel like these spawns can be predictable, and it does feel like you can dominate this map and actually have a control on this map just because you're a good player who is knowledgeable of what the map design is all about. So yeah, really enjoyed this map. Definitely the best one in the game. Let me know your guys' lists in the comments section below. Like I said, it's always going to be different for everyone. That's just how opinions work. So definitely be respectful about your own opinions and how you share them. So I will see you guys on my next one. Peace out.